topic that we've just covered about Marcos banning the POGOs in the Philippines, this is what I would call a flexible deterrent option. It's a way of cracking China uh, uh, upside the head for some of its conduct. And this is a big loss of face for China because it exposes the dirty underside of some of their activities in foreign countries. You know, these POGOs, this concept of criminal activities, human trafficking, is not just limited to the Philippines.
Could you talk about how the Alice Guo case, which is related to Pogos, has now that it's kind of come out that she's probably a Chinese citizen and not the Philippines-born Chinese person that she apparently took the identity of. How is this playing in the Philippines, and how is that related to like what's happening with Pogos and like the perception towards China?
Well, this woman, Alice Guo, was the mayor of a relatively small town in the province of Tarlac, which is just north of Metro Manila. And the town is about 75, 80,000 in size. And she became the mayor of this town, and then they discovered that she was a part owner of the land under one of these pogos, which they raided, and they discovered all kinds of cash and challenges with um, human trafficking, and that she had a number of very expensive automobiles. And so there was an investigation that played out like some kind of televised. It was of enormous interest in the Philippines because the hearings were televised. She was before the Philippine Senate. And then it was discovered that maybe this is not uh, a Philippine born national entitled to political office. And so there was more research and more investigation. And lo and behold, it looks like she's a Chinese national that had been moved into the Philippines since she was a teenager and now achieved political office and was operating as a front for some of these criminal or espionage activities. And so, Shelley, this Alice Guo incident has really inflamed the Philippines further anti China. And it is, it's reminiscent of a playbook that we've heard about in the old Soviet Union when young people were moved into various Western countries, including our own country, and then they were raised within that country. They had a local accent, and maybe they ultimately became like an espionage sleeper cell. And this is what the Alice Guo incident really looks like to the Filipino people. That this is a sleeper cell, one of potentially thousands that China has set up in the country, and it has you know it's pushed the needle further against China, and that's why public opinion is so strong to support the Philippine government in maintaining its the country's sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea and pushing back against China.
How does that fit into this divide that you were talking about between Marcos and Duterte?
Well, it cuts the other way, Chris. It obviously it's it's advantageous on the Marcos side because they are then able to say, "See, we told you so." These Chinese that are coming into the country are coming in for evil purposes, malign influence, and we need to be very careful of them. And in some cases, they need to be deported.
Now, I wonder. China just held its third plenum, which is supposed to be about the economy. Currently, the Chinese economy is
Oh, are we moving off the Philippines?
well. This ties into it.
Okay.
Uh, the Chinese economy is not doing well. How is that affecting their ambitions vis-a-vis the Philippines?
Well, I think, Chris, it ties back into where we started with this show, and that has to do with this negotiation interest that China had to reach some kind of accommodation with the Philippines in the West Philippine Sea. And the reason I say that is that this third plenum, um, unless one of you can see something in that came out of that third plenum that I certainly can't, uh, it doesn't really do anything in terms of improving the economy. And so that what the leadership in Beijing is facing is the potential, and we've discussed this before, the potential for social unrest if they don't get this economy straightened out. And the potential for social unrest is, I think, part of the motivation for China playing to the home audience in spinning the negotiations and the result that they achieve with the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs in terms of this agreement.
Mhm.
You follow me on that?
Well, because as you're saying, if they do get into a similar confrontation with the Philippines like they did with India in the Galwan Valley, with the economy being what it is right now, that would be particularly devastating to the
Oh,
party's internal propaganda.
absolutely. And so the leadership has got to be very, very sensitive to anything that makes them look bad. And so look, you've had in your series of podcasts lots and lots of discussions about uh, the Chinese and the Chinese culture. And from my business experience, to me, it all boils down to two things. The Chinese are interested in money. That's their one of their key motivations. And the other is they've got to maintain face. And maintaining face is the to avoid humiliation. And this whole exercise that has been going on since Marcos took office between the Philippines and China has been a brilliantly executed exercise, a series of tactics involved in humiliating China. And this is very dangerous for the leadership, and they can't stand this. That's why this is a soft, sensitive spot that the Philippines is going to continue to press on because they understand this.
Well, so it seems like this is a very unique time where not just the Philippines, but the Philippines, the US, Japan, India could really apply a lot of pressure to the CCP and get them on the back foot.
Yep, you are absolutely correct. I mean, I've often thought about this as we potentially approach the coming uh, potential for a change of administration in the United States. That there is a setup here for kind of like what we saw with Reagan back during the Cold War era, in terms of a series of soft spots that could be pressed on to modify the CCP's behavior, or depending upon the amount of pressure, take them down. I don't know whether that's even a possibility or not, but I can certainly see the soft pressure points developing, and I'm sure that there are individuals with a lot more expertise than I'll ever have who can predict what might happen, but I certainly see those emerging.